Hi, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the video. What is about to follow is my initial reactions to the hero story and then the villain story of Infamous 2, which I recently completed over on my Twitch for game clearing. But before we get into the story, because that's the bulk of this video is the story, because that's what I'm mostly interested in. And Infamous 2 is a big... It's become a point of interest for me. But before we get into that, I want to talk briefly about the game and the graphics and the whatnot, you know. The stuff that video games are known for. Well, the gameplay informs the story, at least in the first game. The second game, we'll get to it. But gameplay-wise, Infamous 2 is definitely a lot tighter than Infamous 1. The parkour is a little tighter. The thrusters, the static thrusters, are definitely definitely great. I very much like the improved thrusters once you get them. In terms of the lightning attacks, there is a wider variety of them. You still have your regular alpha bolt. The alpha forms of each attack is pretty much what you had in the first game. There are some attacks that are changed or modified or removed depending on which of the two conduits, Quo or Nyx, that you befriend and swap powers with about a third of the way through the game, or halfway through the game. If you swap powers with Quo, you get access to a couple ice-related attacks, and if you swap powers with Nyx, you get a couple of fire/napalm-related attacks. In the case of Quo, in the first game, you have the electric shield you can use to block bullets. In this game, it's replaced with an ice shield. You only have access to it if you swap powers with Quo. If Cole swaps powers with Quo, they made a Quo and Cole in the same game. That's some very similar names for someone who trips over their tongue, such as myself. If you want the bullet shield, you have to swap powers with Quo. Gosh darn it. Or once you complete both Hero and Infamous storylines, you get access to both sets of powers, regardless of which karmic state you're currently in. If you swap powers with Nyx, you get the napalm powers. I can't think of any Infamous 1 attacks that were adapted to be Nyx powers. Other attacks include the sticky grenade comes back, double grenade comes back. There's also each conduit swap has a special R2 move. The special R2 attack. Although they are more traversal move than they are attack moves. You start off with the first R2 attack is a static lift. I forget what it's actually called, but it basically allows you to pick up objects and hurl them at enemies, or if you're evil, huck them at the group of civilians standing oh so innocently below a bunch of balconies. If you swap powers with Quo, there we go, swap powers with Quo, to get ice powers, you get the ice launch, which is a more upwards ability. It'll shoot you up high enough to get on top of some trolley wires, which replace the subway, above ground subway lines from the first game. If you swap powers with Nyx, you get the Firebird Strike, which is more of a forward movement. You can cross provided you have enough electricity, which you won't by the time you get, but by the end of the game, when you're clearing up side missions and blast shards, you should have enough electricity. You can use the Firebird Strike to cross the gulf between the two islands of New Marais. It's close, but you can do it. You can use the Firebird Strike to attack, but it's not all that great. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and it's a little hard to aim. One thing I didn't like about the Firebird Strike is that you can't immediately go into the thrusters. You can't immediately start hovering when you come out. There's a second or two delay after coming out of the strike before you can do anything. But if you just mash R2, you will be able to cross large distances until your electricity runs out. New to the attack moveset is the ionic powers. Over the course of the game, you will get the ability to hold 3 ionic charges, which you collect by defeating enemies or civilians, although it's rarer to find in civilians than it is enemies. There are 4 total ionic powers. There is Ionic Cyclone. Basically, it allows you to summon a tornado that you can send flying towards a group of enemies or down a crowded civilian pedestrian street and wreak havoc. It is a good crowd control power, excuse me. If you swap powers with Quo, you get Ionic Freeze, which shoots out a ray of icicles. I really didn't use it all that much. I never really found a spot where the freeze was better than the cyclone, because if you have a group of enemies standing right in front of you, you can use either and it will work, but cyclone just goes farther. So Cyclone is, in my opinion, objectively better on average than Freeze is. If you swap powers with Nyx, you get Ionic Drain, which is just Bio Leech, but it's an area of effect Bio Leech. So if you're surrounded by enemies, I don't know how large the range is, and it doesn't work on the mini boss enemies with health bars, at least as far as I know. But if you're surrounded by regular mooks, it'll drain them of their electricity, bio, force, whatever, and refill your electricity and kill them. I didn't really use it all that much because I played the evil story on hard mode, and by the time I got into a position where I could use the Ionic Drain, I was already dead or about to die. And it just wasn't, I never got into a position where I could use it reliably and not die, either right as I activated it or about to activate it, or all the gains I got from it was immediately canceled out by the hordes of enemies that were not affected by Ionic Drain. The last Ionic power is Ionic Storm, and it's just summoning a lightning storm down upon your enemies. This comes right at the end of the game. I never really used it. Ionic Storm was just my preferred Ionic power. I don't know why. I guess because it was the one I had the longest. It's the starting Ionic power, and it covers such a wide area. such a long range. But Ionic Storm supposedly can take out the larger enemies in one shot, provided you can get close enough. I have not tested that out. That is just according to one of my viewers in chat during the last session when I played a user-generated content mission called Bad Day in Prison that the same commenter suggested I play. Speaking of, I'm going to be turning my second attempt at doing that into a video, so keep an eye out for that. I noticed while when playing Hero and Evil Story, I don't know if the difficulty affect XP gaining, but I played the Hero Story on medium difficulty, and I played Infamous Story on hard difficulty because I didn't want to deal with collateral damage on hard difficulty. I just wanted to spam grenades, spam rockets, throw cars, throw tornadoes, and not worry about who or what I hurt. I did the same thing when I played Infamous 1 a year ago on stream. I don't know if difficulty affects how much XP you earn. I didn't notice any difference other than I was not getting as much XP and buying as much upgrades as I was when I was playing the Hero Story. By the time I reached the end of the Hero Story, I think I had every upgrade except maybe one. But by the time I reached the end of the Evil Story, I still had most of the rockets, one or two of the grenades, and a couple other attacks that I hadn't bought yet. And I did the same thing for both playthroughs. I did all the side missions. I collected all the dead drops, which I just want to make a quick note. The very last upgrade available once you complete 60 side missions is a blast shard radar upgrade that will show you the nearest blast shard, regardless if it's shown on your mini-map, if the blast shard location is on your mini-map. Because previously in Infamous 1 and for most of this game, when you scan for blast shards, it'll only show you blast shards if the location is on the mini-map. But once you complete 60 side missions, you can buy an upgrade that will increase the range. And I would have liked it if that radar expansion also included dead drops. But back to what I was saying, I did pretty much everything the same between the two playthroughs, except for obviously the karmic stuff. Maybe I wasn't attacking policemen and blowing up bombs and silencing protesters and street musicians as often as I was healing civilians, defusing bombs, and all the other side hero actions. I don't know. That's something I noticed. I think that's everything gameplay-wise. The only other gameplay stuff I have left to talk about is all story-related stuff. So, now it seems like a good time to talk about the graphics. We'll talk about the graphics and stuff, because of all the various categories within a video game review, you got gameplay, you've got graphics, and you got story, and you got controls. Controls and gameplay kind of pretty much overlap. When you talk about gameplay, you talk about controls. When you talk about controls, you talk about gameplay. Graphics is probably the one area that I have the least to say, unless it goes over the top about something, because by and large, I generally don't care. I mean, I care about what a game looks like. There will be some games that I see the gameplay of and I'm like, ooh, that looks like fun. But then the graphics are like, I don't know. It looks good. The game looks good. The only time I noticed any sort of like frame rate drops or lagginess, whatever, was when there was a lot of shit on screen. During normal gameplay, didn't really see that. Didn't really get that. But during the UGC, user-generated content, which is something I should actually talk about when I played Bad Day in Prison. Ooh, boy. I'm just gonna put on screen during this whole segment where I'm talking about UGC and graphics. I'm just gonna put on screen that first attempt, and you can see just how you can see the non-existent frame rate at some points. But yeah, the graphics look good. It's definitely a lot more colorful than Infamous 1, without a doubt, probably because it is set in fictional New Orleans, and New Orleans is a bright, colorful party city, whereas New York, it has its color, but New York is a very gray, brown, black, kind of drab city. I've been to New York, and it has color, but it's a lot of glass, it's a lot of concrete, it's a lot of steel, it's a lot of black, it's a lot of gray, it's a lot of brown. Times Square is like the one place where there's just an explosion of color, and that's largely because of all of the electronic billboards scattered around the square. User-generated content. Basically, it's Super Mario Maker, but Infamous. I completely forgot this was a thing since the last time I played Infamous 2, which was more than a decade and a half ago, I would have to guess. And I was genuinely surprised that it was still online. I'm thankful that it was, because there are trophies. There's like 5 or so trophies directly related to doing UGC missions. And these missions could be anywhere from kill all the enemies, throw some cars at a point, run along this giant path, this super duper long path that takes you off the map and down under the map, right into the den of a minigun guy and 2 turrets, and then when the mission ends, it just drops you into the void below the map. Or it could be something like Bad Day in Prison, where as soon as you spawn in, you are just mobbed by every class of Icemen of the Vermont 88. It's fun for the most part. Sometimes, and the quality is wild. You sometimes get missions that are all right. They're pretty fun. And then you got missions that are just, what do? I thought I did the thing I was supposed to do, but the mission doesn't end. They're marked on the map with green markers. Side missions are still yellow. Main missions are white. Good side missions are yellow and blue. Bad side missions are red and yellow. Did I say the good missions were red and blue? I meant yellow and blue if I didn't say that. I'm recording all of this off the cuff because I am bad at reading scripts. Actually, no, I'm good at reading scripts, but for some reason, when I try to do a video that's scripted, it doesn't work. I don't know why. Anyway, is there anything else I want to talk about before I play the initial reactions? I can't think of anything, so I'm just going to play back-to-back my initial reactions to the hero story, followed by the evil story while the credits are running. And then once that's done, we'll pick back up and I'm going to elaborate on story stuff because I have some thoughts, and some thoughts that I haven't really seen any other any other reviewers talk about. And I'm curious if there's anyone else out there that shares the thoughts or just wants to talk. Let's start a conversation about the Infamous 2 story. All right, reaction. Let's go.
Which brings me to some thoughts. Now I don't remember what the evil story is like, and I don't think the thoughts I'm about to share would change based on also after playing the evil story, but right off the top of my head, and I was thinking this throughout especially this session, is they really should have done a trilogy instead of 2 games. Just 2 games. Technically 3. There is a non-canon spin-off called Festival of Blood, which is about vampires taking over New York, and I believe you play as Zeke. I don't have it. The only way to play it now is through emulation or streaming it via the PS4, PS5, but you have to be subscribing to PS Plus, and I am not signing up for PS Plus. I have enough subscriptions for that. But they really should have done a trilogy, or this game should have been longer, because I don't think we spend enough time with Nyx and Quo for this last choice to like have as much weight as they probably wanted it to have. Because like, now I've played this before, so I knew, and I've seen reviews about the Infamous games, so yeah, I remembered that Cole was going to die, Nyx was going to die, Quo was going to die, all the conduits were going to die. I knew how the hero's story ended. I don't remember how the evil story ended, but I bet you it's like, well, actually, I know how it ends, because they lay it out. Quo lays it out in that last cutscene. When you make the decision, it lays it out. Either you kill all the conduits to save all the non-conduits, or you kill all the non-conduits to save all the conduits. So the evil version is the exact opposite of the good version, which is just how this series always is. But yeah, I wish we spent more time with Quo and Nyx. Yeah, because it doesn't. Right now, Quo does have a bit more emotional weight than Nyx's sacrifice, because we do technically spend more. You do technically spend more time and some more time with Quo via the hero side missions, but all it amounts to is, hey, go do a thing. Hey, I'm gonna join you while we do a thing. That's what all of the hero side missions amount to. And yeah, Quo is the one giving it, and Nyx is, all the evil missions are going to be the exact opposite. Nyx is going to be the one that gives out the evil missions. Spend more time with Quo, like training her to use her powers, and then also the final boss, not gonna lie, a little anticlimactic, a little easy. I don't know if it's gonna change with the hard when we switch to hard for the evil story. But yeah, it was a little too easy. And Quo, she was nothing. She was nothing. I don't think she got a hit on me, or if I did get hit while she was out the first time when she had an actual dedicated health bar. It was probably just something from the beast that hit me. I don't think Quo actually hit me. And like once I knocked her off, and when she was up on the beast's shoulder, I just zapped her every time she got up. Stood up, zap, fell down. Stood up, zap, fell down. Stood up, zap, fell down. And she just went down. She was a non-factor. And I think, and especially especially during that race back to the cathedral for the RFI, I feel like they definitely wanted her to be a pest, to be fighting you constantly during that race, but they didn't. It wasn't enough. They didn't. She wasn't enough. She was just. Now at first, yeah, I was ready to start fighting her as I was making my way there, but then I realized I can just ignore her. I don't have to. They also should have had that kind of Obi-Wan, Anakin, Revenge of the Sith, Mustafar conversation during that race, where they're shouting back and forth about, "You have turned her against me. You have done that yourself. You've turned evil." Like they should. Nyx will be the exact same. I'll just be able to ignore Nyx.
Are you sure about that?
Now again, we'll be playing the evil story on hard, so maybe it'll change. But honestly, I'm not expecting it to change. I'm not expecting it to change much. Nyx is probably still going to be a non-factor, and then fighting the beast, fighting John at the end. It's going to be just spam rockets. You're done. That's story related thoughts. It should have either Infamous 2 should have been longer, or they should have made a third game. Now, granted, the way they set this up, I don't know how you would get to a third game with Cole unless you push the beast back into the third game and found something else, or it just took the beast out and they went to New Marais anyway to, get the RFI, get powered up, and Bertrand was the whole main villain of the whole game, and the conduit arms race genocide thing. Like they could have done that, but yeah, and like, yeah, the beast. Really, I'm just saying that they should have done 3 games so that we could spend more time with Nyx and Quo, so that their sacrifices or their heel turn had the weight that they definitely want it to have. Who's ready to see how the evil story turns out? So, the evil story of Infamous 2. Ending wise, it's satisfying. Of course, the final boss
is Zeke, of course. But as I said earlier, as I've been saying, the evil story, it just plays out too much like the hero's story, except for the missions where you have a good mission start and a bad mission start, where you have to make the karmic decisions. Outside of that, the similarities are slim to none. If there are any differences in the dialogue and the cutscenes, I did not notice. They're just. I'm genuinely disappointed by the evil story of Infamous 2. And like, I had heard that the evil story of Infamous 2 is not great, but I didn't know how not great it is. Canonically, within the Infamous universe, the evil story is a what-if scenario. The hero story of Infamous 1 and 2, and I'd presume Second Son as well, are the canon. Here, it's hero story across all three games that are considered canon, and the evil story is the what-if. In the first game, the evil story doesn't feel like a what if. It genuinely feels like that this is how the diverging timelines went. Like, there's a genuine alternate universe where Cole did not become a hero, a selfless hero, but became a selfish villain. And then Infamous 2 just feels like one of those underbaked, underthought fan fictions where the author is like, but controller shut off. Great. Where the author, the fanfic writer, is like, but what if main character bad? But then doesn't follow up on making the necessary changes down the line. Like, I've recently been watching a lot of Super Carlin Brothers. If you don't know them, they do a lot of Disney and Harry Potter stuff. Harry Potter especially. Harry Potter has been the only thing that I've been watching from them. And right now I've been watching their and I'm almost done with it. Their What If Ron was in Hufflepuff. They did a previous one where it was What If Harry was in Slytherin, and just changing the houses that the characters are in has a huge effect on the Harry Potter story going forward. Like in Chamber of Secrets with Harry in Slytherin, Harry can't draw the sword of Gryffindor from the hat because he's not in Gryffindor. He's a Slytherin. So instead of killing the basilisk, he uses parcel tongue to tell it to attack the riddle diary, and then retreat back to Infamous 2, it'd be as if it would be like you and if you wrote it would be if you wrote the what if Harry was in Slytherin, but when we get to facing the basilisk, he still draws the sword because that's how it happened in the book, and that's how that's what happened in the base story, and that's the only way Harry can beat the basilisk. Harry has to beat the basilisk by using the sword of Gryffindor. But then why is it, but how can a Slytherin draw a how can Harry, a Slytherin, draw a sword of Gryffindor in the same way that why are Cole and Zeke just sitting on a couch watching a Western, having a beer, having bro time, when Cole has been committing mass murder and atrocities throughout the entire game? It is a genuine disappointment. If Sucker Punch ever does do, and I don't think they will, I don't think they'll ever do a remake or remaster of any of their previous games. I think they're a studio that is much more concerned with making something new, with doing something new every time instead of revisiting old projects, old universes, etc. But if, in the slim chance that they do some sort of remake for Infamous, at least the first two games, just the first two games, maybe Second Son, but I could take it or leave a Second Son remake. But if they just do the Cole McGrath games 1 and 2, leave number 1 and its story as is, there's not a lot wrong with it. I genuinely can't think of anything glaring at the moment that doesn't get resolved in the comic series. But Infamous 2, they would need to write at least one alternate version of the story for the evil path. They need to fill in the gaps for an evil Cole story in Infamous 2. And I don't they could do it. I definitely think they could do it. But it makes me wonder, why didn't they do it when they originally did it? Okay, so that was my initial reaction to both the hero story and the evil story of Infamous 2. As you can tell, the evil story was, shall we say, underwhelming. And the biggest problem, and I believe I said this in the reaction. If not the reaction, then I definitely did say it during at some other point in the stream. The biggest problem with the evil story is that it's literally just the good story, but Cole does the bad missions instead of the good missions when it comes to the karmic choices. Which, in the first game, outside of the open world, run around, heal people or kill people, defuse bombs or blow up bombs activities, you had more karmic choices
scattered around during the missions. When it came time to shut off the valves that were spreading Sasha's tar across the Neon District, you could either do the selfless, heroic, sacrificing thing of turning the valve off yourself and getting splattered with the tar. Or you could do the villainous, selfish thing of forcing a regular civilian to do it and get hit by the tar. And there were other karma choices along that lines that weren't even part of a mission, but did have an effect on the following cutscene. Probably the biggest example of this poorly thought out evil story is the exact same cutscene towards the end of the game that plays out the exact same. Nothing changes except what Cole is wearing.
Hey. Hey. I love that part.
Now, in the hero story, this cutscene is perfectly fine because Cole has been being a good boy and Zeke has been trying to rebuild their bridge of friendship. So, two dudes just sitting on the couch, watching a Western, sharing a beer. And they both have a somewhat unspoken rule of, yeah, this is bro time. We're not going to deal with any calls or anything else. It's just you, me, a beer, and a Western. And it's fine. It works good. But in the evil story, it's the exact same. Only Cole has a black and red shirt. He's pale as all get out. He looks god-awful and corrupted because, evil corrupts. And Zeke does not change anything. Cole does not change anything. And it just makes you think. In the first game, when you were doing bad things, Zeke took note. He said, At first he was all gung-ho about it because it was getting him results, and kind of he thought what the city needed. But then the further you get down on the karmic scale, the more he's a little questioning of your actions, the more he's like, buddy, do we really have to go around committing mass murder? In this game, you are essentially doing the same thing. You are running around, you are committing mass murder, you are just being a absolute sociopath, psychopath. Cole is being an evil bastard, and Zeke is not reacting accordingly. I get that he wants to rebuild the friendship bridge, but when in the previous game, not even friendship prevented Zeke from noticing how many bad actions Cole was committing. In this one, it's a little weird how it doesn't change. Another thing that is problematic about the villain story is that every single one, or almost every villain start, nearly every one that is led by Nyx is the objectively dumber decision. The decision that would result in Zeke turning on you, Quo turning on you, LaRoche and the Rebels turning on you, and that never happens. The mission at the fort, you can either do a Hearts and Minds campaign where you get them medicine and food steal it from Bertrand's men and give them to the rebels to get them on your side. Or you could go with Nyx and stage a false flag operation. You can dress Nyx up in a Bertrand militia outfit. She goes on an absolute massacre of the rebels. You jump in and take her down, save the rebels at the last minute, and boom, you are ingratiated in the ranks of the rebels because you saved them from the militia. Now, one would think that later on in the game, the whole ruse would come out one way or the other. And then LaRoche would turn on you, and he would make things a lot more difficult. Any mission where in the hero story, the rebels would be on your side and helping you, they're either not there or they're getting in your way. Whether they're working with they wouldn't work with the militia, but they might work with the Wehrmacht 88. Regardless, in the evil story, you would think that it comes out. It doesn't. It doesn't come out. It just leads to the whole disappointment I felt with the villain story. And then lastly, there's the final karmic decision of the game. Do you use the RFI to kill the beast and consequently all conduits, activated or non-activated? Or do you not use the RFI, help John White, aka the Beast, in activating conduits at the expense of normal people, non-conduits? Which one do you do? Well, good for you, you don't have a choice, because by the end of the game, you have more than likely done all of the karmic side missions for whichever story you're going for. You are already at max karma. You've got all of the karmic related upgrades as well as switched elements. So once you've done all that, the only way you're increasing or decreasing your karma is by doing the around the town activities. Diffusing or blowing up bombs, healing or killing people, etc. In the final choice, you have to be at the max karmic state of whichever choice you want to make. If you want to activate the RFI, the good karma choice, you have to be at max good karma. If you want to not use the RFI, you have to be at max evil karma. If you want to go with the other, you have to go around and rebuild your karma or decrease your karma. And the problem is, we had a similar choice in the first game, activating the second ray sphere. You could activate the second ray sphere whether you were completely evil or completely good. If you were completely good and decide to activate the ray sphere, your karma was instantly 180'd to Infamous. You are locked to Infamous for the rest of the game, and while you get a power boost and very cool black lightning, you still can't get the good ending. Now that is fine because you made the choice. You actually had the choice. You could continue to be the good boy and not activate the ray sphere. You could destroy the ray sphere, but power helps. So you activate the ray sphere, you get a power boost at the expense of killing a bunch of people. The RFI is the ray sphere of Infamous 2. Yet you cannot make the decision unless you have the appropriate karma level. And at that point, I'm just like, why don't you just not have the choice and just set the ending when you start the mission? If you start the mission at max good karma, you get the good ending no matter what. You're given no illusion of choice of turning your back on humanity, because while that would make some amount of sense, self-preservation and all that, since it's not until that very last mission where you learn that, oh crap, if I use the RFI, I'm going to die, as will all the other conduits. But right before this mission, I saw that John White can activate conduits, cure them of the plague. What do? Do I save myself and other conduits? Or do I sacrifice myself and other conduits to save the people who will not survive the plague? If there were an actual choice, I wouldn't be complaining. But there's not a choice. All that to say, the evil story just feels like the good story with a scattering of detours for the karmic-related missions. It's not great, it's not well thought, and it is disappointing. Because the first game's story, the general plot line is the same, but the exact actions make the story different. In the first game, the good story is different from the evil story, and it feels and it plays out like that. In the second game, it's just, if you imagine a straight line, that's the good story. But at random points, there's just a little downward ditch that comes back up and rejoins the straight line, and that's where the evil karmic missions are. And then right at the end of the line, there's a fork. You go straight forward into the good ending, or you take a left and go into the evil story ending. As I said in the evil story reaction, it's disappointing. And it all leads me to say that Infamous 2 is just as long, but half as bright. Anyway, that's all the thoughts that I have for Infamous 2. I really need to make these videos the closer to finishing the game than I have, because I'm sure there are more thoughts that I've forgotten since I last played. But hey, that just gives you guys a reason to go and watch the VODs over on my VOD channel. Watch me play it, watch me give thoughts, watch them evolve as I play the game. As for what's going on the stream right now, what are we playing right now on the stream? We are currently on Orphan, Scion of Sorcery for the PlayStation 2, every Monday at 8 p.m. Central. On Tuesdays, we trophy hunt. Right now, we're between big projects. We just finished the Transformers Cybertron duology. Now we are going and doing some smaller games, cleaning up And up next is Assassin's Creed Revelations. Wednesdays, we play Fortnite for about 2 to 3 hours at the start, and then follow it up with another game. Right now, we're switching between Mario and Luigi Brothership and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And then Thursday, it's race time. We be doing some iRacing in Lethal Nation. And that's about all I got for this video. So, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think about what I think down in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. What did you think about the evil story of Infamous 2? Did it disappoint you, or were you fine with it? Did the good story send you off with a satisfying conclusion, or do you wish that there was a third game and that the beast was pushed into the third game? Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video around with all of your friends. And until I see you again, thank you all for watching. Y'all have a good day, a good night, a good evening, a good morning, a good whatever time of day it is, and goodbye.